There's definitely something about being so close to nature and breathe. When I step out my door, the air is so fresh and so clean, and you can smell the trees, you can feel the lake. And
I really feel I had a blessed childhood because of where I grew up and where I was raised.
In Atikokan, your neighbor is your friend, and if not, your neighbor is a relative of a friend.
It was a very warm, open feeling that you just wanted to be part of.
I hardly ever drive my car. I can walk any place I need to go in Atikokan.
In 1980, broadcaster Peter Mansbridge produced a 20-minute feature called The Town That Wouldn't Die, as many believed it would become a ghost town when their iron ore mines closed. But Atikokan defied all odds, pulled together, and rebuilt the community.
Lots of people say, why are you here in Atikokan? Like, I said, well, yeah, I could do it anywhere. I could do this business anywhere. I could have a store here. I don't have to manufacture here. I don't have to be here. And they're right. But I'm here because I like it.
Atikokan, called the canoeing capital of Canada, is a jumping-off spot for the renowned canoe area, Quetico Provincial Park, a 2-hour drive from Thunder Bay, or less from the west.
I think at first you have to sort of trust and just sort of give yourself to the community, because no matter who you are, no matter what you do, you're really, really appreciated.
If you compare it to something like urban living, it's probably less hazardous in the sense that it's not a place that has too much traffic or crime or anything like that. So if you're talking about just the intimidation of something being wild, I would say that life here is, in that sense, more civilized.
You have to learn to get along with each other, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. You have to be able to understand where people are coming from. It's not as easy to just walk away from them and move on to the next person, because that next person is not necessarily there.
When you live somewhere, you have to make a commitment to it and say, this is where I live, and what can I do to make it better, and what can I do to make it a place that I want to live and that I want my kids to live.
I don't think anybody really dare to be a criminal in this town. Because it's like, everybody would know you probably, or if they didn't, they'd know you right away, because you're the one guy that's standing out as being a little different.
In the fall of 1965, an outdoor education program was established at the Atikokan High School. Guided by the philosophy of experiential education developed by Outward Bound, grade 11 students face a series of challenges in a wilderness environment, which are designed to promote character development and personal growth.
When you talk about experiential learning, I think Outdoors defines that term. You take a young person who really doesn't have any experience, and then you put them into situations that forces them really to find out what their potential is all about.
Instead of me right now walking back there and telling them what to do right, they're figuring it out on their own.
Is your head under there?
Experiential learning at its best. That's what Outdoors philosophy is all about.
We have got a very well thought out safety protocol. The local medical establishment in this town is so supportive of what we do that they come on the trips with us. And one doctor in particular, many times. And more than that, the doctors are available to us 24/7. How many doctors do you know? And these aren't parents. These are doctors in the community. How many doctors do you know that will allow you to have their cell phone and their work numbers and backup phone numbers so that they know? It doesn't matter if it's 3 in the morning, if we've got an issue, we can call.
Let's get an IV, get the oxygen hooked up, get the monitor, and let's get the doctor here right away.
This 41-bed accredited hospital provides a full range of diagnostic services, and the physio rehab includes video conferencing with major centers. The Atikokan General Hospital offers emergency, acute, including cardiac care and obstetrics, chronic and long-term care services. Other community services include chiropractics, acupuncture, and massage therapy.
For a small town, we have just about everything available to us. You can buy your clothes in town and your groceries. You don't have to worry about having to stock up on things out of town.
All the sports that you could want, baseball, soccer, the hockey ringette, figure skating. We have the bowling alley, we have a swimming pool.
There's dancing, and I do cardio kickboxing.
You know, I was looking through the paper the other day and saw pottery lessons and Tai Chi and yoga and things that aren't sort of part of Atikokan's history or typical of the activities people in Atikokan usually would have done.
There's so much for the young families out there too. There's the daycare, there's the 2, 3, 4 play group, and there's the toy lending library. In the library here, there's so many functions for younger children, and every season has something for people to do up here. If you really immerse yourself in the outdoors, you just love it up here.
People don't think you're as strong as someone else because you're not from Toronto. You're not from Winnipeg. Well, just because you don't have that much competition around you doesn't make your individual spirit, character, any less than any of them.
You can tell he's really
quite a legacy, Minister, quite a legacy.
Atikokan are the town that wouldn't give up, you know, as Peter Mansfield said. And that's the spirit of Atikokan. You rise to the occasion when you have to rise.
Originally a divisional point on the CNR line, Atikokan quickly became a thriving community with the development of Steep Rock Iron Mines and Kaylin Door Company. In order to get at the Orbany Steep Rock Lake, the entire lake was drained and the water pumped out. The Seine River was diverted through a series of diversions and to this day stands as an engineering marvel. The empty pits are now returning to their natural state.
My dad, his father had a lot to do with the diversion of Steep Rock. So there's history on that side, and then my mom's side were the first settlers in Atikokan. So I grew up thinking of Atikokan as my sort of family history. So when I chose to live here, I think the pride in me said, I want this to be, you know, the same thing that they had then. They saw some kind of future in the town, and I did too.
Well, the fact that it has persevered so much is really, I think, the best proof that it's the people who live here believe it's worthwhile.
We're a very, very remote community, and it's not rural, it's remote. So, but this remoteness, as we grew, we came to really appreciate the remoteness of Atikokan.
In London, where the Industrial Revolution had been going on for 30 years, the streets are being lit by gas lamps, and here, that's 1815. You can look out onto the lake and you can see it, and that's exactly how it would have looked.
Think about that. Where else are you going to go in the world? I could take somebody from that came here 30 years ago, take them into the park, and still drink the water. If they want to fish, they unbelievable fishing. The campsites are clean. Look at these trees. I mean, they're still there. They're not cut. The Pines, which is similar to this, just 3-4 miles from here, was scheduled to have a power line go right through it in the late 60s, early 70s. And Ross Williams had it diverted that way. And he got it stopped because he knew. Quetico is a very, very special place. And it's special because special people recognize it as a special place many years ago. Many years ago.
I've come from Britain, come from the UK, come from London, and I really like doing conservation work. I think it's really exciting being out here in this fantastic countryside.
This for me it's more of a curiosity thing. I'm very interested in the environment and sort of conservation work. I know others in the group are slightly more environmental kind of careers or whatever, but for most of us I think it's just a chance to meet other people and see a different part of the world.
But being in this wilderness, like we don't have anything like this in the UK. And I've not been to Canada before. I've not seen these forests. I've not seen eagles before. We've seen lots of eagles. For me, it's so exciting to do this. It's brilliant. It's the best adventure.
The community of Atikokan is really the service centre for the Quetico Park area. And over the years, that attachment is one of the reasons Atikokan calls itself the canoeing capital of Canada. But you also see it in things like the canoe builders in Atikokan. There are several canoe makers, fiberglass canoe makers, strip canoe makers. There are paddle makers in Atikokan. There are people who do outfitting in Atikokan. And so really throughout the community there's a range of skills as a way of making this a real canoeing mecca. Quetico and also the Boundary Waters are probably among the best canoeing areas because this is an area where you do get an incredible density of small lakes that are very interconnected. White Otter is a much bigger lake than most of the lakes in Quetico, and so I think as you go north of Atikokan, what you find is several big lakes, but not so much the chains of little lakes that you would find south of Atikokan.
Jimmy McQuat wrote the Minister of Defense. He said to them, you should send these veterans, these soldiers with their broken down bodies and their broken down nerves, and send them to White Otter Lake. Send them to my castle and let me rehabilitate them. Let me heal them. Let me help them get better. And you know, that guy was so far ahead of his time, and of course it was ignored.
The White Otter Castle is a significant heritage building on the far north shore of White Otter Lake. Jimmy McQuat built his castle alone, single-handedly, with ingenuity and hard work. Some of the logs, when green, weighed up to a ton each. Jimmy was living in his castle by 1914, but died 5 years later of mysterious means. At 58, his body was found washed up on the shore. Just over 30 years after his death and less than a quarter of a mile away, the soldiers did come to White Otter Lake, but not how Jimmy had envisioned.
In 1937, J.A. Matthews took over this old logging camp, and then in 45 and 46, he had these conscripts come over. This camp had, I think it was 89 or 98 POWs here working as well. With the water tower standing there beside this building, this was probably the shower house, and all those POWs showered in it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I've been told that over there has got a lot of limestone in it, and that's what makes the water good.
Yeah, that's all limestone.
So that is true, right?
Yeah. It's one of the oldest formations of limestone on the face of the earth. There's no fossils in that limestone. The limestone that's down around Niagara is just littered with fossils, eh?
Yeah.
And this limestone, there's nothing in it. It was laid down before the atmosphere was properly formed.
For me, living where I do and having so many tourists that come in, it's them that makes me realize how lucky we really are, because these people are traveling for, you know, hundreds or thousands of miles to come here, and to see the expression on their face and say, oh, you're so lucky, and you know, this is their 1 week away, and they just think that they're at the best place in the world. And that's when I realized, wow, we really do have something special. And sometimes it takes seeing it through someone else's eyes to realize how lucky you really are.
There was always that feeling when you came to a small town that you wouldn't stay, right? I mean, that's a very common thing with small towns. People show up there, I mean, they're just chasing a job, and yeah, I'll take that, and I'll work there for a year or two and leave. Well, I heard that from many people for Atikokan. Yeah, I came here with the idea that I wouldn't stay long, and I've lived my whole life here. And that's the same thing for us. I mean, I can honestly say, and I say that to anybody who'd ever listen, that really proud to live in Atikokan.
We're like this little jewel off of the highway that unless you go into it, you're not going to know we're there, and unless you stay, you're not going to know what you're missing.